In the rest of our tour on the digestive system, we'll talk about the organs that have the greatest amount of misinformation out there about them. So we'll talk about some common misconceptions about the digestive system. So the next organ on our tour is the stomach. The stomach can store food for several hours. In the stomach, the food is going to be churned and mixed with gastric juice produced by the stomach itself. This gastric juice is going to be a mixture of acid, mucus, and a few digestive enzymes, but again, really not much. The stomach, it contains gastric juice, which is made of a strong acid, a few digestive enzymes, and mucus. The stomach churns the food into a thick soupy mix called acid chyme. Now, what surprises a lot of people about the stomach is that the stomach is primarily a site of mechanical digestion. Now, we often think of the acid in the stomach as being a major component of chemical digestion. But really, one of the major functions of the acid is to prevent bacterial growth and prevent the food that's in our stomach from spoiling. The job of the stomach is to get the food in a uniform mixture so that the chemical digestion can occur within the small intestine. Now, there are a few digestive enzymes, but only a few within the stomach. What we'll see is that most of the chemical digestion happens within the small intestine. Now, another aspect of the stomach that's often misunderstood is a specific stomach ailment known as gastric ulcers. Now, gastric ulcers are erosions of the stomach lining. Now, if you ask most people what causes ulcers, they're going to say stress or spicy food or coffee. And while those things can aggravate ulcers, they are not the cause. The cause of the ulcer is a bacterium named Helicobacter pylori. Now, the reason why this is so significant is if you or someone you know are suffering from symptoms of an ulcer, and you think, okay, I'll take it easy at work, or oh, I have a vacation coming up and everything will be fine. Well, no, really, the first step is to get antibiotics to take care of this bacterial infection. Now, it is true that aspirin and other medications could possibly also cause ulcers, but most of the time, ulcers are caused by these bacteria, H. pylori. And in fact, H. pylori infections can spread further down into your small and large intestines, and there the symptoms can be even worse, resulting in consequences that could be permanent. So taking care of that H. pylori infection when you can is important. So the next organ in our tour is the small intestine. Even though it's called the small intestine, it is the longest part of the alimentary canal. It is the major organ for chemical digestion and also for absorption. It is in the small intestine that most of the hydrolases the enzymes responsible for chemical digestion will come in contact with the food and break those polymers down into monomers. So really, it's the small intestine where the chemical digestion takes place. The small intestine is broken into three parts. There's the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. Now, these three regions of the small intestine have different roles. We'll talk first about the duodenum. The duodenum receives digestive agents from several other organs. So this is the top part of the small intestine, and it's where it connects with the stomach and receives acid chyme, in addition to receiving bile from the liver and gallbladders, and pancreatic juice from the pancreas. The jejunum and the ileum, these are sections that are farther down in the small intestine, and they are specialized for the absorption of nutrients and water. So the duodenum it's the top part, the top bend of the small intestine, and we see it's connected to several accessory organs in addition to the stomach. Now, the job of the pancreas is to secrete pancreatic juice into the duodenum, and this pancreatic juice serves two very important functions. First, it neutralizes the stomach acids that were produced by the stomach. So actually, from the duodenum onward, typically the pH of the digestive system is going to be slightly basic. Another job of the pancreas is to release the digestive enzymes that hydrolyze the macromolecules. The liver secretes bile, which helps with the digestion of fats. The gallbladder, it turns out, doesn't make anything on its own, but it is a storage site for extra bile made by the liver. The job of bile is to break large droplets of lipids and other hydrophobic molecules into much smaller droplets. This increases the surface area on which the hydrolases are able to work to break down the lipids. Bile is an emulsifier, and what emulsifiers do is again break up hydrophobic materials into much smaller droplets so that they can then mix with the water, at least increasing the surface area that hydrophobic material has with the water. Although the food has been ingested, it's not technically in the body yet. Those nutrients must still be absorbed. And so this is a major function of the lower parts of the small intestine. Now you might guess from the outer texture of the small intestine that you would assume the inside would just be a flat, smooth, hose-like structure. But that's not the case. In fact, the intestinal wall contains villi and microvilli. These are projections which extend from the inner wall of the small intestine, providing a large surface area for absorption. So the villi are the larger extensions, and the microvilli are extensions at the cellular level. So does it work? Do these villi and microvilli actually increase the surface area? The answer is yes, drastically so. In fact, it's been calculated that within the length of your small intestine, if you were to spread out all the bumps and all the undulations of the villi and microvilli, you would have an absorptive area equivalent to that of a tennis court. So this is a significant amount of surface area within our small intestine. As we continue our tour of the digestive system, the next stop is the large intestine. Now, the large intestine is shorter, but wider than the small intestine. As we saw with the small intestine, there are three main parts to the large intestine. We have the colon, which makes up most of the length of the large intestine. The main function of the colon is to absorb water, and in this way, it produces the feces. It solidifies the waste material of what has passed through the small intestine, preparing for that material to be expelled or eliminated from the body. Now, the rectum is the last 15 centimeters or 6 inches or so of the large intestine, and it has thicker muscular walls which are present there to help expel the feces from the body. And then lastly, the anus regulates the opening of the rectum. So with that, our tour of the human digestive system is complete. We can see that the 4 stages of food processing take place along the alimentary canal. Ingestion happens at the mouth. Digestion, mechanical digestion happens in the mouth and the stomach. Chemical digestion primarily happens within the small intestine. Absorption of water and nutrients happens in both the small intestine and the large intestine. And then finally, elimination of feces occurs through the anus out of the body. So that completes our tour of the human digestive system. In the next video, we're going to talk about why it is that we eat in the first place and what happens when some of those processes malfunction. Thanks for your attention. See you in the next video.